Bob, as Gidon's partner, and from a Christian perspective, how do you see that same question? How do you see attitudes towards Israel changing in relation or reaction to increasing evidence of the biblical fulfillment of prophecy, particularly in this regard to replacement theology?
I didn't know exactly what Gidon was going to speak about.
That makes two of us.
And I learn from every experience, by the way. But I'd like to sort of do the counterpoint, which is to speak to Christians interacting with Christians, because replacement theology comes about, it is understood when we interact, right? And so I just like to, I have a real affinity for I love the name, Bridges for Peace. And so I thought I might just, the name is Bridges. There is a bridge, there's a universal bridge, there is an organizational bridge, Bridges for Peace, or Hayuvel, I would argue, is a bridge for peace as well. But also, every one of us has an individual calling and mandate. If we're in this room, we have a calling to be a bridge ourselves. And if God has a place for each one of us, it is unique. And it doesn't have to look like anyone on this stage or any other stage. It is uniquely for you. It is based on the things that God has placed in you and the journey that you're on, where He will stretch you into the places where He wants you to be. So it is yours. It is also only attainable in community. You don't run off, the American thing about going off and, be your own person, leave everybody else behind. No, it is God's way also to connect in community, in relationship, as Christians. And of course, we're talking about bridges. So we'll get to the relationship with Jews in a moment. Okay, that's the first word, bridges. Second word, for. When you interact with people, people can be for you, or you may need to be for them. I won't say that they're against you. I'll say that you need to be for them. If people are for you, here's something that I'm learning. That being willing to expose yourself as a learner is more attractive than showing yourself as learning. Now, every person in this room, when you're talking to someone, 99% of the time you're going to know more than what they do. You are more learning. But what I'm saying is, what I've noticed is that being willing to talk about things, but in the context of what God is showing you now, is a wonderful way. People who are for you, their heart will be drawn to that kind of attitude. Now, when you run up against replacement theology, there's different levels of how for you people will be. And you have to meet full aggression with facts, as we were learning in the first session, right? But I'd like to just give you a model to think about when you interact with people, and you're worried about what's going to happen with replacement theology or how to deal with it. You can never know enough, right? So it's a matter of trusting God. You're on your journey, and God will bring to you and the things that He will help you deal with. But there's a model that I've been thinking about lately, and it looks like this. I see a circle. When I interact with a person or a group, I'm thinking of the circle. Where are they? The circle is the things in which they hold dear. Where they are with Israel is in the circle. And this idea is that to give them something in the circle, give them something on the edge, and if you dare, give them something beyond, to take them a new place. For instance, very practically, if the person is absolutely against Israel, I will start with the land. If they're a Christian, I will start with God's promise to the land, to the people. That is my first step. If that's in their circle, I'll move to the next step. What about God's promise for the Jews to return? Okay? If they'll accept that, I'll move to the next step. Is God actively working in the nation state of Israel? If they'll take that, then I'll move on to what does relationship look like? You see? Okay. But the idea is to understand where people are. Try to give them something in their circle, on the edge, and beyond the edge. And the last word is peace, bridges for peace. And of course, peace is the American, the English word for shalom. And of course, we know that shalom is a completeness, a wholeness. What does wholeness look like? I would like to demonstrate the circle with this group. I'd like to give you something regarding Israel and the Jews that's in the circle. I'd like to try to give you something on the edge and maybe something that will push the boundaries of some. The first is that right in the center, wholeness requires relationship. It's no longer about going out and learning Jewish things just on Wikipedia. It requires relationship. How rich it's been to be in relationship with Gidon and others. It's changed my entire perspective. It's enriched me tremendously. Relationship. That should be in your circle if you're in this room. Okay, let me give you something on the edge. The Balfour Declaration, fantastic. I came to Israel because this trip, to be here for this, such an important event. But the Balfour Declaration, I was thinking about it, it's one way. It was a declaration from the British government to the Jewish people. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But I believe that the times in which we are in, that the days of one-way declarations are over. What does a two-way declaration look like? I'd like you to look to the left side of the stage and you see a banner. What's it say? Israel 365. Look at the right side. What's it say? Bridges for Peace. This is a two-way declaration. This day that we're in right now is a two-way declaration. Okay? That should be on the edge. You know where we are. We're on the edge. Okay. Now, let me press the boundaries. I personally believe that in the days ahead of us, beyond the Balfour Declaration, that God is going to bless with great favor those things that, those initiatives that come out of the Jewish community that are joined in by the Christian community. Okay, so starting with the Jews, the root source that he mentioned, it was his idea. And I felt God called me to join with his idea. So anyway, that's how I would speak to you directly. Bridges for Peace. What a wonderful name. What a wonderful way to remember how we should interact with love. Regarding the Balfour, I have a big picture theory that in 1517, God started a time clock. Both for the Ottoman Empire taking Jerusalem, 1517, and the Protestant Reformation, they started a clock, and he said, perhaps 1492 wasn't too much earlier, with the Spanish expulsion of the Jews. But anyway, I think God said, I've had enough. I'm starting my clock. I'm going to bring my people home. 400 years to the day. 400 years to the day of the Protestant Reformation came the Beersheba battle, and as we now know, Balfour was actually signed in on that very same day. And where is the number 400 in the Bible? Yes. In Genesis chapter 15, thank you, Sandra, that God said to Abraham, your descendants will be enslaved for 400 years, but then they will come out. 400 years. 400 years is right there, just so obvious. Now, that was 1917, but the real state of Israel didn't happen until the UN voted it in on November 29th, 1947. That's 430 years. Is 430 years in the Bible? Yeah, how about Exodus? Exodus chapter 12, when God said that the children of Israel were enslaved in Egypt for 430 years. Well, wait, we just said 400. Well, it's the sons of Israel. The way the Jews see this, I never knew this until I began to relate to Gidon, is that was when God gave the covenant to Abraham to leave Ur of the Chaldees. So he left 430 years before the Exodus. Isaac was born 400 years before the Exodus. So you have both in play. And my last point, because I'm out of time, is we are now 500 years from that of 1517. So what is the message for us today, 500 years? You know, 500 it appears in Scripture, but it isn't overt. In order to get to the 500, you have to look into the deeper story. How old was Abraham? In Jewish theology, in Jewish thinking, how old was Abraham when he was called out of Ur? 70. 70. So you add 70 years to 430, and you get 500. So in a way, in this unusual sort of symmetrical replay of history backwards, we're at the year of the birth of Abraham. I think that this is some kind of big birth thing going on. I don't think it's not as visible, just as Abraham's birth wasn't known and famous, but something is happening in this time. So I'm very excited to be part of it. Thank you.
Amen. Hallelujah.